I don't say this to be dramatic, I say it because I really mean it. The astrology of April is not here to play because we are in the thick of this collective rebirth and it's not going away anytime soon. What do I mean when I say that? Well, with all of the historic, generational, outer planet transits we are experiencing, astrologically speaking, the planets, the stars, the energy, the collective energy is not going to come down until at least 2040. Super big fast car out there. I don't know if you heard that when I said that. Like, God confirmed. High speed. We are in this rebirth for the next, 15 years. Let's take a sip and take a breath. No, one more. And that timeline makes sense given everything that's going on right now. Astrologically, this month especially is extremely, extremely high energy. We have 6 planets in Aries. So that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, that historic outer planet transit, is really going to be activated this month. And this month starts out with a full moon in Libra, which is the opposite of Aries. So by the time we get to the new moon in Aries, mid-month, the fire of rebirth is here, right? There's no more resisting this. There's no more avoiding it. It's here. It's here. It's now. The shift that everybody has spiritually been feeling in their body and their bones for the last few years. It's here. It's now. In case that wasn't obvious to you. Let's dive in. This full moon is pushing for change big time. Big time. Again, personally and collectively. Especially collectively. There is a T-square. I kind of just had a mic drop moment. My lotion just fell to the ground. There is a T-square. What's a T-square? A T-square is a high tension aspect pattern formed by 2 opposing planets, both squaring one planet. Think of it this way. The 2 planets that are opposing each other are boxing, and the planet that they are both squaring is kind of like the ring that they are boxing in. It is where that tension is going to manifest energetically, both internally and externally. There is a T-square. With this full moon, there is a T-square with the opposing planets being the Sun in Aries, which is still close enough to the Saturn and Neptune conjunction to where it is still carrying that energy as well. So we have those planets and that energy in one corner, right? And the other opposing planet here is the full moon in Libra. The apex, the planet that both of these energies, these planets, are squaring, is Jupiter in Cancer. So we have individualistic and individual goals, ideals, restructuring in one corner. And in the other corner with the full moon in Libra, we have this huge balancing energy of needing there to be a harmonious balance, which with everything going on takes a lot of work. Which brings us to the apex, right? That Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer representing home, personal security, emotional security, home security, feeling secure in yourself and with your loved ones. The Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries has brought authoritarianism to the forefront. It has brought the harms of patriarchal individualism and white narcissism to the forefront. Saturn is a planet of boundaries, of authority, of discipline. Neptune is a planet of dreams, of illusions, of intuition, mysticism. It is boundless. So when the planet of boundaries and the planet of boundless, expansive energy come together, we see complete societal restructuring, illusions being confirmed, dreams becoming real. And when I think about dreams, nightmares are also dreams, right? So ontological crises is a big theme with that conjunction. Like we've seen a lot of conspiracy theories being proven as real with the Saturn and Neptune transit, including the Epstein files. We are seeing just how breakable democracy and our government here in the United States, so-called United States, is. The wealth gap of our society keeps widening and widening. There are major imbalances in today's modern world, unjust imbalances, which absolutely affect us at home, in our bodies, our minds, our emotional state, our emotional well-being, our somatic well-being, our physical well-being, our personal security, our home security, our livelihood, our lives. So this T-square between the Sun and Aries carrying that Saturn-Neptune conjunction energy against this full moon in Libra, bubbling towards Jupiter, the planet of expansion, of opportunity, in the sign of Cancer. Again, home's personal security like we've talked about. This full moon is absolutely here to highlight, to put a spotlight on the major imbalances that are no longer sustainable globally. And this spotlight is further amplified, electrified by an outer planet minor triangle, which kicks in with this full moon. And this minor triangle will carry through at least through the end of the year, which makes me think about how April 1st used to be the beginning of the year. This full moon on the 1st of April with all of this energy We are being pushed into this rebirth, whole new era. This shift is here, like I said. And this era is being rung in with the imperial boomerang. What's a minor triangle? So a grand trine is made up of 3 planets that are all trining each other. A minor triangle is when there are 2 planets trining each other and they are both sextiling a 3rd planet. A trine has much more flow, has much more harmony compared to a sextile. However, a sextile is still very much a beneficial aspect. So while a grand trine is amazing, it can sometimes have a hard time manifesting and be much more internalized, if that makes sense. Versus a minor triangle has just the tiniest bit more tension, and that tiny bit of tension is what's going to help push that minor triangle to manifestation. Again, both sextiles and trines are really beneficial aspect patterns. They just have those little minor differences. And like I said, this minor triangle, which again carries through at least through the rest of this year, 2026, is shaped by Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus at the end of Taurus, about to ingress into Gemini, both of which sextiling the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So all of these outer planets are going to be harmoniously flowing with each other and having a high energy discussion about humanitarian restructuring. And something I want to note here with this minor triangle is that Pluto is making beneficial aspects to both of Aquarius's rulers, both traditional and modern. Aquarius being a sign of humanitarianism, innovation, intellectuality, uniqueness. So we have the transformational, innovative forces of Uranus and Pluto working together, directed by and focusing on the Saturnian responsibilities to Neptune, the collapsing boundaries, the collapsing structure of our society. Given all of the supercharged energy of this T-square and the minor triangle of this full moon, at the very, very bare minimum, this full moon will be a collective acknowledgement, both internally and externally, that things have to change. How uncomfortable we are now, and how uncomfortable that change is going to be. The revolution will not be televised, because it takes hard, hard work, and we all have a role to play, and it starts in here. And when I think about that energy of collective acknowledgement, both internally and externally on a global scale, I feel like it's highly likely that we're going to get more global fallout of the geopolitical tensions we are all experiencing and further uncoupling globally from the US. The US, never been united, let's be honest. The UN is coming to mind, particularly the recent announcement or statement that they are preparing for the potentiality of nuclear war with the Iran war. Another thing that's coming to mind is, like I said, the Epstein files have been a big Saturn-Neptune conjunction thing. The energy crisis is coming to mind because that's going to continue getting worse as this war worsens, and so that's bound to be a thing with this full moon. And also over the last week or so, we've started to see the AI bubble start to pop. So it feels probable that that will continue on with this full moon. For how this affects you personally, I of course recommend you look at your birth chart, look at your Aries house and your Libra house, as well as the conditions of your moon and your sun. And, you know, this collective acknowledgement of things needing to change, that we cannot put it off anymore. Again, the whole revolution will not be televised thing. This truth is being highlighted with this full moon and will be fortified over the next couple weeks as the moon moves through the signs and wanes her way to the Aries new moon. And before we get to that new moon, over the span of those couple weeks, we have a couple major transits to discuss. On the 9th, Mars moves into his domicile, his home of Aries. Mars, of course, is the planet of drive, aggression, action, energy, representing how you assert yourself, how you pursue your goals, and how you handle conflict. This is why Mars rules Aries, the sign of trailblazing, initiatory, courageous, bold, often impulsive, cardinal fire. The beginning of the zodiac, the spark of life. The passive, soft, indirect, fluctuating energy of Mars in Pisces transforms into the quick, bold, direct, high energy of Mars in its home of Aries. Given that there are 6 planets in Aries this month, as Mars moves through its home, it will of course activate multiple planets, including Saturn and Neptune, Mercury, and Chiron. And it will be sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. Quite literally, the fog is clearing and it is full steam ahead on the collective rebirth. As Mars interacts with all of these planets, it will provide high-octane fuel for this rebirth. Given that Mars is a planet of aggression, the planet of war, we will of course see this war with Iran intensify. Trump has talked a lot about putting boots on the ground as of recently. I'm sure we will see a lot of that. And of course that will intensify the situation. And furthermore, I expect this to put a fire under the asses of the rest of the world. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of breaking news, aggressive developments overall, globally, from this war this month. We can absolutely expect the imperial boomerang to hit even stronger, even harder, even more forcefully. Speaking of the imperial boomerang, we can also absolutely expect this powerful energy to force us to face the realities of today. We can absolutely expect aggressive pushes into our life to break away from individualism and capitalism and build more sustainable systems of support in our lives. And this will absolutely be tested throughout Mars and Aries. For further details about how this hits personally, I once again recommend you look at your birth chart, look at your house, look at your Aries house, and also look at the condition of your Mars. Then on the 14th, Mercury sextiles Uranus and then ingresses into Aries. The Mercury in Pisces overthinking, overwhelmed waters are shocked into clarity by the disruptive planet of Uranus, and then immediately ingresses into the bold, quick, blunt fires of Aries. Mercury, of course, is the planet of communication, intellect, knowledge. Given all of the other planets in Aries, and again, how Mercury is going to be interacting with multiple planets, like the Mercury and Mars in energy alone, there's likely going to be a lot of conflict, a lot of disagreements, a lot of fighting energy that we are going to have to navigate through. We are going to feel absolutely emboldened and feel the impulse to act on how we feel. So both of these planets ingress into Aries. And then on the 17th, we have the new moon in Aries. We still have that minor triangle between the outer planets like we talked about earlier. Wednesday the 15th, when the moon enters Aries, the moon can join Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, and Mars all in the same day. We always feel moon cycles at least 3 days before and 3 days after. So the 15th, we are going to start feeling that new moon energy high-key heavily as the moon makes all of these conjunctions. Thursday the 16th, the sun conjoins Chiron, the wounded healer, and the moon squares Jupiter. So a tension arises between personal comforts and security and individualism, individuality, personal identity, egoic emotional status, which brings us to the 17th, when the moon conjoins Chiron and the sun. Chiron again being the wounded healer. In the sign of Aries, survival wounds, individualistic wounds are going to be highlighted. So the recognition of imbalances that started this month with the full moon in Libra comes full circle to this new moon and reveals to us personal aspects of the way we personally are imbalanced by all of this. Not just in our external reality, but also in our internal minds, our bodies, every part of our lives. Because individualism affects every part of our lives. That urge to act on how we feel, the injustices and imbalances that are firing our bellies, culminates into this new moon with a huge urge to speak up and act up upon the inner truth that was acknowledged with the full moon. So all of those things that I mentioned with the full moon, the Epstein files and the Iran war and the energy crisis and the AI bubble, all of those themes that we're starting out with in the beginning of the month, I expect to boil and reach a massive, massive breaking point with this new moon. By this point, you should know to go look at your birth chart in the house of Aries to see how this affects you personally. The high octane energy of all of these planets in Aries, as well as this new moon in Aries, is brought even more oxygen as Venus enters Gemini. On the 23rd, Venus will exit her domicile, her home of Taurus, and enter the mutable air sign of Gemini. Represented by the twins, Gemini symbolizes intellectuality, curiosity, adaptability, duality, and sociability. This marks a transition from the slow, sensual affection of Venus in Taurus into the flirty, playful, intellectually stimulating Venus in Gemini. Venus here encourages experimentation and variety, focusing on flexibility, freedom, and intellectual compatibility. Gemini can create fast-paced, distracted energy. Details can be blurred and misinterpreted. And the possibility of misinterpretation is, of course, only further amplified by everything that is going to be in Aries this month. So for this entire month, I highly, 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 highly suggest do not be impulsive. Think before you speak. Think before you act. Do what you need to do to release what you need to release and not project it. Do what you need to do to stay grounded, particularly staying grounded in your authentic self. And furthermore, work on self-love so that you can step out boldly, confidently as your authentic self, knowing what you have to offer in this collective rebirth and the role you are meant to play, the roles you can play, knowing all that you can do. And with all of this Aries energy, Aries being a sign of individuality, try to see your identity outside of individualism. Individualism and capitalism can bring about very rigid versions and visions and perspectives and understandings of our identity, of who we are. Collectivism doesn't take away individuality, it enhances it because it gives you more freedom to explore your identity and your passions and your love. So do some shadow work to connect with who you are outside of individualism, outside of capitalism. This month is all about aligning ourselves and our lives with our values, putting our money where our mouth is, aligning ourselves with our truth, aligning ourselves with the truth, taking action on that truth. Again, putting our money where our mouth is. Like I said, the rebirth is here and it cannot be avoided anymore. And I say that with the utmost love because things have to change and we know it. And I think that's a good place to put a cap on this. If you're interested in some shadow work, some mantras, somatic practices to get you through this month, you can check out this post on my blog. Linklay is in the IO Bay. While you are there, please help a family in need. We are not free until we are all free, and we both know that. As always, the only way out is through. Sending you so much love.